This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Walker, and today I'm going to be talking about what do you look like when you're not there? Thank you to our friends at RepairPal for providing this episode. RepairPal's certified network of shops are trusted by millions of customers each month. Learn more at repairpal.com/shops. And are you ready to convert clients to members? AppFueled specializes in creating custom apps tailored specifically for professional auto repair businesses. Visit appfueled.com to get started today. Get your shop top of mind on the mobile device they love. So, an interesting question. What do you look like when you're not there? There is a guy that I follow on Instagram and on YouTube. His name is Square Body Dave. Or I should say that's his handle anyway. His name is Dave. But he is a guy that collects old square body Chevrolet trucks. And he's got a really cool Cummins swapped crew cab dually, a 3+3. And I bought one of those trucks and actually was intending to do the Cummins swap on mine. And I ended up buying a newer Ram AEV Prospector XL. So I don't need two diesel trucks. And I ended up selling my Cummins drivetrain. And I've still got the truck. And watching his stuff makes me still want to do something with it. I don't know that I can really justify it, but that's neither here nor there. Dave has these segments that he does called Truck Talk. And it's just him talking. It's not much different than these podcasts, honestly, except that it's, much shorter. And he's usually just kind of talking about life in general. And we're supposed to be talking about marketing, but it feels like it's been forever since I've done a marketing topic. The last one I did was episode 131, which was about 4 episodes. Wait a minute, no, that was just 2 episodes back from this one. So not too far back. But I love talking about self-improvement kinds of things. And it's something where I've been on that journey in my life, working to become better in all ways. And I love talking about it. And when he posed this question, he said, what do you look like when you're not there? And the example that he was giving was he was walking around a junkyard, and he does that often. He'll walk around his local U-Pull-It, and he'll show, like he'll do a video where he goes out and finds a part that he needs, or, he finds a cheap LS engine or something like that, and he'll go get it, and he'll take you along at the junkyard. Well, he was there looking for some parts for a truck, and I think he needed a wiring harness or something, a little piece of a harness, but all of them that he was finding when people were taking the engines out of the truck, or taking parts off the engines, they would just like cut the wiring harness or rip it in half or whatever, instead of actually taking the 2 seconds it would take to unplug the connectors. And he was saying, that this says a lot about a person. And he doesn't know who the person was that was there that was removing the parts, but he knows a lot about them because of the way that they did it. And he asked that question, who are you when you are not there? So when you have been somewhere, the way that you leave that place says a lot about who you are. And there's more to it than that. The big one that I think of when I think of, what do I look like when I'm not there is, with my son, for example. When Peyton was young, he would have friends come over, and the way that some of those kids acted said a lot about their parents. And we would be, Kim and I would be mortified if Peyton's actions said about us what some of his friends' actions said about their parents. And it got me to thinking about, okay, what are other areas that make me look a certain way when I'm not there? And I thought about, well, what about when Kim and I leave the business? We're on vacation. Um, let's say we take a big vacation, we go to Europe, and we'll do that every few years or so, do something on that scale. And when we do, we tell the team, it's like, look, we're not available. We're not here. Um, when we're on just regular vacations here and there, and when we're traveling for business and everything, we'll still be very much involved in the day to day of the business. If they or at least if they need us, we're reachable. But when we take one of those bigger bucket list vacations, we will tell them, look, we do not want to be bothered. Um, and and during that time, they are now an extension of us. The interactions that people have with our team might as well be an interaction that they have with myself or Kim. And, stop and take a second and think about that in your auto repair shop. When you are not there and someone comes in and they have an interaction with your team, whether they know you or not, what does the impression that your team gives them, what does it make them think of the owners of the business? And hopefully it's great. I think like we have some really amazing people in this industry, and especially the people who operate on an industry level. Like they have coaches, they go to the industry events, they listen to these podcasts, um, and they do things differently. They do it on a much higher level. So I'm hoping that for the majority of y'all, and I believe that for the majority of you who are listening, the impression that they give is going to be a very good one. And it's still a valid question whether the impression that someone would have of you when you are not there is a great impression or a poor impression. Um, Still a great question and something to think about. But then beyond that, what about when your employees are out on the town? And hey, look, they're off work. They can do what they want. They they are not supposed to necessarily be a representation of your business at that time. However, they still are. And what does the way that they act after hours when they're not in uniform, but they still work for you? What does the way that they act say about you when you're not there? And then here's a different one to think about. It's a different way of looking at it altogether. What would your family's financial future look like if you were to get hit by a bus? Because it's the same thing. What do you look like when you're not there? And to me, that's one that is incredibly important. If I I unfortunately know, and I think we all do, we all know people who, they woke up one morning and they thought they were going to have a regular day, and they didn't get to go to sleep that night because they didn't live through the day. Something, car accident, or, something happened that took them out of this world. And they leave a family behind. And to me, it's like my personal goal that if something were to happen to me, that at least financially, my family never skips a beat. So that's another way to look at, what do I look like when my family is not there? What is someone going to think of me and my skill of building a solid foundation for my family? What are they going to think of me if all that they see is the aftermath? I'm no longer in this world, but my family is. How does it make me look? And there's so many different ways to look at this. And then the question becomes, well, how do you change what you look like when you're not there? And to me, it starts off pretty simple. It's like, well, whether we're talking about your family, your overall family, your kids, your employees, um, your business as a whole, what how do you look when you're not there in those situations? Well, the way that you would impact that would be, first of all, to be the person that you want those people who are now being looked at in your absence, be the person that you would want them to be. Like, you live that life. You do what you want them to do. You or that you would want them to do. You act the way that you would want them to act. You lead by example. And then while you are in their presence, when you see them doing things that are great, well, first of all, you speak that out in them. Okay. So you praise them, your kids, your family, your employees. You praise them when you see them doing things well. And you speak it out. I've talked about this on multiple episodes of this podcast of how powerful words are. You can literally speak actions that you want to see people take into existence. And when you speak highly of someone, especially in their presence, they will start doing things the way that you see them. So, that would be the easiest way to make yourself look good when you are not there. And it brings me to the point of the whole do what I say and not what I do thing is such a terrible idea. It is a cop out, and it will make you look bad when you are not there in every situation. And then finally, just to become a student of leadership. You look at how the great leaders acted and what they did and how they did things. And this is something that I'm working on every day. Um, there are cases where I don't know how I look when I'm not there. But I know that as I move forward, I can be intentional about doing things that hopefully will make the perception that people would have of me when I'm not there much better in the future. So that's the question for today. I know this is a short episode, and it's more about getting you to think about things than anything. But what do you look like when you're not there? So, hey, look, thank you for listening in today. I want to thank RepairPal and AppFueled for sponsoring this episode. Remember, we are just one of a handful of podcasts that are on the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find the others at aftermarketradionetwork.com. I hope that you'll listen in again next week. 2 weeks from now, episode 135 is one that I really want you to listen to. If you're not listening to this one right when it came out, if it's a couple of weeks afterwards, go back and find episode 135 and listen in on that. But I hope that you'll listen in again next week. And until then, go fill those bays.